our first segment of the day, and that is LeBron James and the Lakers comeback. Last night they squared off against the in-town rival LA Clippers, the Battle of LA that is always sort of made up to be this big thing, and yet I feel like a lot of the time we just haven't seen, especially in these past handful of years, the Lakers and Clippers at the peak of their powers at the same time. And last night it seemed that way for the majority of the game. The Clippers took a double-digit lead in the second quarter, and then other than a quick hiccup in the third quarter, they held that double-digit lead until the fourth, where they went into the quarter up 19, scored a quick basket off of, I believe it was a Lakers turnover to make it a 21-point game. And then LeBron James happened, where he scored 19 points in the fourth quarter, the most that he scored in any quarter this season, and he single-handedly outscored the Clippers, who only put up 16 in that fourth quarter as the Lakers came back. He played his vintage game where he was seeking out matchups that he wanted and just abusing them possession after possession. He was getting, his first option was to get Daniel Tice on him. If not, he got Harden on him a couple times and he went to work. He knocked down 5 3-pointers in 7 possessions to catapult them back into this game. Eventually, the Clippers started to double team him, but with his basketball IQ, he is just on a different level. He was able to find the open guys, because that's the thing, is if you send the double at LeBron, he is going to be looking for where that open guy is, and he found them consistently. And even then, so you had Hachimura and D'Angelo Russell knock down a couple shots for them, but even when they did miss, it was Anthony Davis in the low block who was grabbing these offensive rebounds. He got to the free throw line on one occasion, or he would kick it back out so they could run the play again. LeBron scored or assisted on 11 of the 13 baskets that the Lakers had in this quarter. He accounted for 30 points total. So an unbelievable, again, vintage run here. And it was the largest fourth quarter comeback in LeBron's career, interestingly enough. And games like this are why, the Lakers do still have a long way to go here. It's why it's hard to fully count them out, because despite it being year 21 for LeBron, he is still able to elevate his game to the highest of highs when the game calls for it. The consistency of him being able to do it on a nightly basis isn't necessarily still there, but the ceiling is still there. And that's where, when we talk about the greatest players in the NBA, it's pretty easy and I think justified to leave him outside of the top 3, maybe even the top 5. But it is that moment where if you are playing one game to save your life, LeBron James has to be at the very top of who you are drafting to do so. And added to the fact that he is shooting a career high in three-point percentage, and we see the basketball IQ that he obviously still has at this matured age, it's just so unmatched, and he puts his teammates and himself up in the best possible situations to succeed. Now, all this being said, the question about them being contenders isn't just about LeBron James alone, because we know there is a lot more to this. We've seen him and Anthony Davis put together both really healthy seasons, considering how the past handful of years have gone for them, and yet they are still where they are outside of the top 8 seeds in the Western Conference, because the supporting cast has been underwhelming for a lot of this season. A few of these guys started the season pretty slow and are definitely turning a corner, and that's a lot of the other guys in their starting rotation. Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell. Russell's been great for the past few months. There are a lot of people, I think, out there that have doubts with Russell about some of the decision-making stuff, being a true point guard. I think that that's fair. The way that he's shooting, I mean, there's no way that you can argue that that isn't impactful for the team. But is he going to give you his 100%, especially just not have the mental lapses that have occurred with him throughout the course of his career? But he is a very good player. Rui Hachimura, I think, is just about the biggest X factor for this team, especially with the fact that Jared Vanderbilt is likely out for the remainder of the regular season. It is still to be seen whether or not he can come back at the end of the year, if he can come back for the playoffs, anything like that. But he was getting a lot of starter minutes for the Lakers, and I am not the biggest Jared Vanderbilt fan. I think that he is really nice on defense, and I understand the versatility that he can add in that sense. And the Lakers' defense has dropped off some since he got injured at the beginning of the month. But I do think that just with the lack of offensive talent there, especially with matching him up with that roster, they really struggled to shoot threes for a lot of the season. I didn't think that Vanderbilt playing him as many minutes as they were was necessarily the best thing for their organization. And now you have this other, call him a 4, call him a 5, whatever you want to categorize Rui as. He has length, and he can actually be a positive for the Lakers on the offensive side of the court. He is shooting 45% from 3 since the start of the new calendar year. He's had his ups and downs through his career in terms of shooting. He shot just under 30% from 3 with the Lakers last season when they acquired him. And this year he was sporadically injured in the first half, wasn't really performing all too well, was shooting in the mid-30s, but now we're seeing him turn his perimeter shot around. We know that the reliable shooter is in there after being a poor shooter through his first 2 seasons at Gonzaga. He shot over 40% in his final year, not on a tremendous volume, but still 40% is 40%. Any team will take that, and it's just a matter of turning that into consistency. I don't think that he needs to be a high volume guy, but at least being enough to be able to stretch the floor, force the defense to respect your shot, and open up the middle for Anthony Davis and LeBron. He also shot 45% in the 2021-22 season, so he's been able to do it at the NBA level as well. It's just a matter of being consistent and being reliable. I do think that he is going to hold a very big role on this Lakers team down the stretch of the year. Taurean Prince, Austin Reeves, also still some nice contributing players as well. Reeves was not great in the beginning of the year, but he has been turning himself around a lot, breaking out of that slump. And this is a group of guys that all have a lot of talent. I think that they struggle with depth a little bit. I've actually liked some of the Jackson Hayes minutes that they've got in terms of his effort on the glass, both offensively and defensively. And I think that he gives good energy minutes, but he's not necessarily super reliable. That being said, I could definitely see him getting some minutes off the bench against some of these bigger teams, maybe a younger team like the Timberwolves, who have the size, who have the youth, and just sort of, battle it out. I think that he maybe struggles a little bit more against Jokic, if that's the matchup that the Lakers end up drawing early in the first round. But, I think that, again, the conversation is about these supporting cast members, and whatever LeBron is going to do is whatever LeBron is going to do. I just don't think that, more so now than any other point in his career, it's a little bit more out of his hands because he can't give the two-way effort necessarily that he used to when he was younger, where he was dragging these teams to the finals. The Western Conference is too good. So the Lakers are currently 32-28. They sit as the 9 seed. They are 2 games back from the 8th seeded Kings, which would require them to win just 1 game in the play-in tournament versus 2 as it currently stands as the 9 seed. They are 3 games back from the 6th seeded Pelicans, where they can get out of the play-in tournament altogether. They have 22 games left, so they can potentially make up this ground. It's not going to be easy. One thing they do have going for them is this homestand that is coming up for them. They have the 6 consecutive home games going forward. They go to Sacramento for 1, and then they have another 4 games at home. So they don't leave the state of California until March 26th, a month from now. So that is definitely an advantage for them. But it's not like it's going to be an easy stretch here, where they are going to have a slew of games versus the Nuggets, the Thunder, the Kings, the Bucks, the Timberwolves, the Kings again, and the Warriors all consecutively. That starts after their next matchup against the Wizards, which should be a nice little tune-up game. But the time is now really for them to make this push to get themselves together. I think that they are definitely capable of doing it, but I don't think that it is going to be an easy task for them. Quick note on the Clippers here before we enter our first break. I don't think that this is an overreaction game for them. They were without Paul George and Ivica Zubac. This was their first time losing back-to-back games since before Christmas. It was late December, and they were up 20 points in the fourth quarter, so clearly they were doing something right. They controlled it for the most part, but missing 2 starters and LeBron James getting on an all-time heat check for himself, it's hard to sort of overcome there. Again, no excuses for last night, but I just don't think that if you felt like they were a contender coming into this game, that you should be out on them as a whole now. Now, I will note, they have now lost to the Pelicans, Timberwolves, Thunder, Kings, and the Lakers during the month of February. We saw them as just about the hottest team in the NBA for a good month plus stretch during January, and now they're coming back down to earth a little bit more. Again, some injuries are playing into that, but I will say the defense is a little bit concerning, and I know that last night's sort of a tough example to pull in a vacuum, where Harden is still very susceptible on the defensive end in one-on-one situations. Daniel Tice ideally is not going to be playing closing minutes for the Clippers, although I like Tice as a bench big. How much of an upgrade is Zubac? I definitely think that he's better, but not, anywhere near an all-star level. And the Clippers are a little bit in this weird area where they're not small. They like to play small sometimes, but they are definitely not big. And there is size and physicality in this conference, and we've seen that be their downfall during some of these games in February. So, again, it's not a panic button by any means, but these are things that we should take into consideration as we enter these last handful of games of the regular season. Final note here, this was the last ever regular season matchup between these two teams in the Lakers and Clippers, as they share a home court. The Clippers are moving into a new arena next year, and I know that this idea that Steve Ballmer put out there about having the wall where they only admit Clippers fans into the section, it's pretty absurd, and very controlling, and I'm not sure how it's all going to play out, whether or not they're actually going to be allowed to get away with this. But maybe they are going to need it, because this was technically a home game for them. It was, in actuality, very much a home game for the Lakers, and you have to sympathize, I feel like, with the Clippers a little bit. The fact that they are so significantly the lesser of the popular teams in their own city, that should this become a playoff series, somehow, this is going to be a full game of a full series of away games for them. So I don't know, just something to note there. I think they're going to be better off once they move into this new arena, but we'll see how this all works out. But that is all we have for the first segment. We're going to be taking a break, and when we come back on the other end, we will be getting into the rest of the games from Wednesday night. So stick with us. We will be right back.